Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Thursday, 2nd January 2025, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. Antiguan tourism authorities celebrate their wins and look forward to more growth in 2025. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Antigua and Barbuda's Tourism Ministry is already looking ahead to another record year for arrivals in 2025, even as it basks in record arrivals in 2024. Portfolio Minister Charles Fernandez tells ABS News about the priorities for his ministry in the thrust to further turbocharge the sector's performance. He was a guest on Monday's Antigua Barbuda Today. ABS's Terry Andrew has that story.
Antigua and Barbuda welcomed over 1.1 million tourists across key sectors in air travel, cruise arrivals, and the yachting sector throughout 2024. Surpassing the record-breaking figure in 2025 is a goal of the Tourism Authority. Tourism Minister, the Honorable Charles Fernandez, is beyond overjoyed by the historic figures. He says the overseas offices have been pushing the envelope in key markets, which the country is now reaping the benefits. Fernandez believes, though, improving key areas in 2025 is a priority. He mentions digital entry forms as one of those areas.
We need to really lock in our digital entry forms. We need to do that. That is important. I mean, it's one thing to say we're going over 320,000 visitors by air. But I mean, I see all the time when I travel, people struggling with these forms, you know, and so we need to get past that. That is something. We had a few presentations to the cabinet since about October. We're now waiting for our technical side of the government to say, yes, we looked through all three. This is the one that we would recommend.
Airbnb owners are also on the radar for unpaid taxes. Minister Fernandez says they will aim to ensure those funds are paid.
We're working now with the government to see is that the persons that pay their taxes on the room nights, that everyone is collecting. One of the issues we're having is a number of the Airbnb properties that collect the tax are operating under the radar. The irony is the tax is not on them, it's on the visitor. And we need those tax dollars to ensure we have better roads. We need the tax dollars to ensure that we have proper security.
Among the developments in tourism earmarked for the first quarter of 2025 will be the groundbreaking of 2 hotel properties, one at Half Moon Bay and the other at Yeptons.
We have the one and only. We spoke to the folks just on Friday, myself and the PM, and the representative said first quarter 2025. We have also we have the one and only. We have the Marriott, which is the Yeptons. That is also scheduled to start. They did a presentation in cabinet showing the final thing. That was about sometime in October, and they have already said that they will be starting also first quarter 2025. The one and only people who have come in now, and they're going to operate. They're not dependent necessarily on CIP for seed funding, so they're able to start relatively quickly.
Road infrastructure is another area Fernandez says must be improved if the country is to take the tourism product to the next level. Terry Andrew, ABS News.
St. Lucia's Prime Minister has warned of a perceived meteoric rise in digital falsehoods in the partisan political sphere that he believes threatens the island's economic bedrock. Solange Alfred of the HTS News Force reports.
Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre expressed concerns about the escalating spread of disinformation in local politics during a December 19, 2024 Radio 100 interview with Stanley Lucien. The Prime Minister highlighted how modern technology has amplified the reach and impact of political attacks compared to previous decades.
When these things were said, they stayed home. They stayed home. You understand?
But they were said nonetheless. They were said.
Hold on. There's a famous joke that goes. And we mustn't make excuses for irresponsibility and bad behavior, even though it happened before.
Prime Minister Pierre argues that social media has transformed local political discourse into a global matter.
But right now, it's on the internet. It's on Facebook. It's on Instagram. Millions of people see it instantly. So the point that how many people in the world would ever know about somebody in St. Lucia, a prime minister in St. Lucia who had who somebody gave, a politician gave him some issue, apart from papers like the Star that wrote that sold all over the world, etc.
Yeah, I'm seeing the difference, Mr. Prime Minister, but it would nonetheless hurt the targeted individual. It would still hurt.
It would hurt him.
Yeah,
I'll agree. And it was not right at the time. It wasn't right at the time, but the hurt was localized. The hurt was in your cousins and your in St. Lucia. Right now, the damage is overseas. The damage is in your financial reputation. The damage is in how people look at you. The damage is when you travel. It's completely different now. And it was bad now. It was bad then. It's still bad now.
The government recently warned that misinformation about the country's citizenship by investment program could damage its international standing. This warning followed predictions of doom and gloom for the nation's vital correspondent banking relationships made by some political opponents. Officials worry that unfounded allegations could undermine international confidence in St. Lucia's financial services sector, potentially affecting investment and diplomatic relations. The Prime Minister called for greater responsibility in political communication.
We have, as a country, we have to decide whether we are going to be a little more responsible. Complete fabrication. I mean, complete fabrication. You know, it's not a matter of white lies, you know. It's complete. Never happened. You understand?
Okay.
And I think, and that is not good for our society. Complete. Just get one mind and just say things. I mean, it's really, it surprises you.
The Prime Minister noted that while political attacks have always been part of local politics, their global reach through social media platforms has intensified their impact on public figures and their families. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
In its first briefing following the state of emergency declared on Monday last, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service sought to address public concerns over abuse of power. TTT News has more.
We will be fully briefed on the legal parameters of the state of emergency and the modus operandi for the TTPS. Our operations will be carefully crafted and well supervised, and we will be proportionate in all our actions to maintain high standards of accountability.
Commissioner Earl Harewood Christopher was joined by Chief of Defense Staff Air Vice Marshal Daryl Daniel and TTPS Legal Officer Acting Sergeant Zahir Ali. Sergeant Ali explained the expectation when it comes to the preventative detention order.
Within the first 48 hours, I want members of the public to, don't go with the impression that we are, while 48 hours have been afforded, that every single minute will be justified in the detention. But when we're reaching or arriving at the 48-hour window, this is when an assistant superintendent or a magistrate will be invoked
to assess the detention of that particular individual in keeping with due process and in keeping with the rights of that individual. If the assistant superintendent or the magistrate finds favor that there's a need to further detain that person for further inquiries, well, that will be at the discretion of the assistant superintendent or the magistrate, as the case may be.
And while the various groups are in support of the state of emergency move, they say this implementation is no standalone solution. Andrea Perez Sobers tells us more in CNC3's Business Watch.
With the announcement of the state of emergency by the government earlier today, the TNT Chamber of Industry and Commerce President Kiran Maharaj says this is a step towards addressing TNT's crime situation, but warns it's not the only solution.
And the TT Chamber believes that this has to be part of a broader, comprehensive and sustainable plan to combat crime effectively. At the end of it all, we all have to work together.
Commenting on the issue, the head of Downtown Owners and Merchants Association, Gregory Aboud, explains that the state of emergency is necessary and should take specific aim at those behind the illegal arms trade.
It will cause inconvenience to the public, but it is intended to cause far greater inconvenience to the criminals in Trinidad and Tobago, including anybody in high places who has been orchestrating the importation of guns and all of the danger that has been brought upon us by the actions over the last few years that have seen a murderous spree in Trinidad and Tobago.
Across at the Chaguanas Chamber of Commerce President Baldat Maharaj said the chamber has been calling for SOE for the longest while. However, Maharaj had a word of advice to the law enforcement agencies during their searches.
Though that the last time when one was done, it cost us, the taxpayers, a lot of money, and we should exercise some level of caution to ensure that when we conduct those searches and arrests and so on, that it conforms with the law of Trinidad and Tobago.
And Greater San Fernando Chamber head Kiran Singh says it's time to take back control of the country as the criminal elements have been holding citizens to ransom for too long.
It's time to take back control of our country, and the fact that no curfew has been implemented, we certainly acknowledge that that is the right thing for business continuity and progress, especially as we go to the end of 2024.
Meanwhile, TNT Coalition of Services Industries CEO Darren Leasing welcomed the assurance that the measure will not disrupt economic activities.
Over now to Jamaica, where the Commissioner of Police urges citizens to comply with the police. Trisha Gay Kelly of CVM Live reports.
Multiple videos have surfaced online in recent times revealing drastic measures being taken by police officers in confrontation with civilians. Head of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake, explains this is sometimes due to non-compliance on the part of the civilian. However, he's advising Jamaicans to practice the comply then complain method.
We continue to urge members of the public who are confronted by the police to comply with their instructions, particularly to criminals who engage in confrontations with law enforcement. The police have superior training and equipment. Escalating such situations will not end well. Lay down your weapons. Do not raise your guns against the police.
Unfortunately, some confrontations end with fatalities, an increased concern for the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDICOM. However, Dr. Blake says this is not always the intention of his members.
That the JCF's clear preference is to bring persons before the courts to face justice rather than engage in fatal confrontations. This is evidenced by the numerous wanted persons and high-value targets who have been pursued, arrested, and brought before the court this year.
And speaking of statistics, in 2024, 736 illegal guns were seized, 438 of which were taken from assailants in police confrontation. Dr. Blake says this is proof that the force is actively engaged with criminals and is working to rid the country of same.
These cases demonstrate our commitment to lawful and measured policing focused on justice through the legal system. We cannot allow the narrative to focus solely on fatal shootings when the evidence overwhelmingly shows that the police strive to preserve life and uphold the rule of law.
These acts considered, the Commissioner is urging citizens to desist from spreading misinformation. In recent times, the force has been accused of conducting senseless acts of murder. However, Dr. Blake warns against such statements as the JCF seeks to gain national trust.
The statistics we present do not lie. They are rigorously compiled, analyzed, and transparently shared with the public. To cast doubt on these figures is to erode the trust and confidence that we have painstakingly built over time. Such narratives serve only to benefit the criminals who thrive in an atmosphere of doubt and mistrust. Let us not allow misinformation to diminish the progress we have collectively achieved. Transparency remains a cornerstone of the JCF's approach to public accountability.
Trisha Gay Kelly, CVM News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.